Yeah. What's happening, everyone? This is Uncle Devin, the children's drumcussionist, and welcome to We Nation Podcast. We are so glad that you can join us. We hope you're safe, you're washing your hands. I know people are getting back out and doing things, but make sure you still do social distancing because we want to be safe. But listen, we're going to go right into it because I have a phenomenal artist here with us as our guest that I can't wait for you to get to hear and learn a lot more about. This artist, actually, I became aware of her last year. She had a CD that was part of the Grammy considerations, and we're listening to the music, and we were like, this is absolutely great. Should have gotten more attention through the Grammys. But at the same time, she comes to us with a rich history of music producing, music production, probably many more things that we don't even know. So please help me to welcome to We Nation Podcast, the one and only Snooknuk, Cheri Moon. Welcome to the I say the Uncle Devin show, but to We Nation Podcast.
Hey, Uncle Devin, how are you?
We're doing wonderful. It is great to see you. And before we even get started, I have to say thank you for being a part of Kukuza Fest that took place April 10th, 2021. And it was so phenomenal. It was a salute to Black women in family music. First of all, talk a little bit about your experience with that. How was that for you?
Well, that Kukuza was amazing. I mean, first of all, I discovered Kukuza at the very last minute last year and had a chance to tune in, and I was just blown away with the show last year. And honestly, I was just thinking, okay, how can I be a part of this? Like, what can I do? Like, how does this all work? So when I got the invitation this year and especially for the Black women, celebrating Black women in family music, I was bowled over. I couldn't even contain myself. So I was very excited. And after actually being a part of it, and it's happened, and I mean, the energy and the reception from everybody has been just incredible. I mean, what an amazing supportive community in family music we have. I mean, it's really amazing.
Well, and it really is. I've been involved now. I started in 2012 in the industry, and my wife calls it, Lolita calls it, what we call it, cooperation. It's like there is a competition, but really it's a lot of cooperation, and we want to see other artists in this genre to kind of thrive and make it. But before we even do that, talk a little bit about who you are. Who is Snooknuk?
So Snooknuk is kind of like my alter ego. I mean, I've been in the music industry for a long time. I was doing a lot of pop music as Cheri Moon, and I was in a girl group that was working with Timberland and Miss Yelly and that whole crew back in the day. And but when I became a mother, I started writing all these songs to teach my kids life lessons and social awareness, and I just basically turned my life into a daily musical with my kids. And then I just thought, okay, I'm going to make these into an album, because I felt like a lot of moms out there could use these songs the same way that I did to just have a happier time with their kids instead of just repeating things, all the time. Because everything you teach a toddler, you have to repeat it a million times before they even, first of all, listen to you. So that's kind of how I started the idea. So I started with all the basic hygiene songs. So that's my first CD, A Little Less Tears. I tailored it from getting up in the morning to going to sleep at night, basically. And then I just moved on to starting with school. And then what do you learn when you go to school? You learn how to listen. You learn how to share. You learn how to, not give up and have patience. Like all of these different things that I feel like it's a must that you have to teach your kids. Why not make it into a song? It makes it easier for them to learn, and it makes your life easier for them to teach it to them. So that's kind of where my idea with the children's music came from. And now I'm just exploring more songs, having more fun with it, really digging into, like I said, the social awareness aspect of it, which I think is really important for kids, especially nowadays with everything that's going on in the world. So that's kind of where I'm going with it, and I'm enjoying it. And I'm collaborating with amazing artists that I've met since the whole Grammys thing last year, like Fuge with the Black Women in History, and
love that song. Yes,
You know, I mean, I was so excited when he reached out to me to collaborate on that. I mean, that was amazing.
Because that
And
was with Reese Palmer too, right?
with Reese
Yes.
Palmer, yeah,
Mhm.
and that was my first time, you know, meeting her as well.
Mhm.
You know, so I'm just really grateful, and I'm so excited to, you know, with everything that's happening in the future, with everything, all the other collaborations we're doing. So
How would you describe your children or family music? How would you describe it?
I mean, I really love having an array of different genres, I would
Mhm.
say. So, you know, I really touch a lot on doo-wop. I love the doo-wop sound. I love the pop sound. And, you know, and then I don't have a lot of hip hop, but there are some kind of urban beats in there, you know. But I really like to play, you know, play up to different types of genres.
Mhm.
And I like to introduce kids to all different types of sounds, you know, even, I mean, I'm a huge kind of, you know, I love all the orchestral sounds in like Disney music as well. So I like to incorporate that a lot in some of the songs as well, like Listen Listen, for instance.
Mhm.
Such
Mhm.
as Monsters. It's very orchestral and it's dynamic, and it takes you on through like these little loops and hoops with the music. So I like to just venture. And I don't know if I'm gonna even stop there. I think with my next album, I'll explore something else.
That's
I mean,
right.
that's the fun of, you know, being a music artist, right? Just exploring.
That's right. Now,
So,
in terms of being in music, do you have a main instrument or do you play multiple instruments?
live, I've only played really the djembe, but
Okay.
my voice is really my instrument.
That's right.
So I
That's why I said that. Because I always let people know that the voice is the
Yeah,
first instrument in the world.
yeah.
Mm.
You know, so when people go, "Oh, you know what?" When I say I'm a musician, they go, "Oh, well, what do you play?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm a vocalist. You know, I
Right.
sing and I do a lot of things with my voice. Not only do I sing, I make a lot of different sounds. You know, a lot of different sounds, even throughout my music when I'm recording.
Mhm.
I, as a writer, and a lot of people go, "Well, how do you actually write your songs if you don't play instruments?" And I go, "Well, I'm a lyricist, and there are a lot of melodies that come play in my head all the time.
Right.
Sometimes I'll start with the melody, sometimes I won't start with the melody. Sometimes
Right.
I'll start with the lyrics and I'll come up with a melody, you know.
Mhm.
But once I'm in the groove, I mean, sometimes I'll hear drums, I'll hear rhythm,
That's
I'll
right.
have guitar riffs. I mean, I'm in the studio a lot of the times and I'm like, oh, you know, I hear this, you know, let's try this. Let's try, you know.
Mhm.
So that for me is an experience onto into its own, you know.
Mhm.
So and I enjoy that. You know, it happens most times. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes I may not
Mhm.
have an idea. It just really depends. Every writing experience could be different.
Well, if you think about groups like Take Six, they have no instruments but their voice in most cases. And that's why I say the voice is the first instrument,
Yeah.
and you can create harmonies, you can
Yeah,
create rhythm,
absolutely.
and so I think that's to me that's the best way to even get the idea out. If you can hum a few bars, you can sing a
Yeah,
few bars,
true.
and so let me ask you what now? How did you come up with the name Snooknuk?
Snooknuk is actually a nickname that I used to call my kids when they were little. It's like it's like baby talk. It's like, you know, you call
uh,
your honey bear or whatever, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Snook was the name, like that's what rolled off my tongue and it just stuck. So when I started writing the songs, I was like, I'm just gonna call it Snooknuk, you know. So
Right.
that's what happened, and it just kind of stuck. And you know, people seem to like it. It's really funny to hear kids try and pronounce it. But
You know, some of our colleagues in family music, I don't know if you've met them, but Wendy and DB, they have a song called Gibberish.
I don't think
And they're speaking gibberish and baby's gibberish. It's the baby scatting almost, and it is absolutely ingenious how they put that together. But before you even came into family music, you've had a pretty successful career so far. Talk a little bit about that. What were you doing, and tell the audience a little bit more about kind of the work that you've
life before Snooknuk.
done.
Well, like I said, I started with a girl group, and we got introduced to Timbaland. And then basically he took us on and was like, okay, well, you know, he's going to produce some songs and introduce us to up and coming producers that he was bringing on board. And they were producing for us as a group to get a deal. The idea was to get a deal with a label and, you know, put records out and so on and so forth. So we got a production deal with them, with their team. And then we started working with other producers through him and so on and so forth. So we were traveling around, flying to Texas or LA or whatever, working with these different producers, writing and recording. Now this was the start of my writing career, because I had never really written a song before then. And it was amazing, the process, just like watching them and being in the studio and watching it all happen. Then I just got the bug, and then it just kind of grew from there. The group fell apart, unfortunately, right as we were recording some amazing songs that, like, I mean, I just thought were the hits of the century. But what ended up happening is it was another girl in the group named Michelle, who's a blonde girl, Irish, was going to, it was me and her were the lead singers pretty much. And we were doing pretty much most of the writing. And that was kind of the problem. The other girls, when we were doing showcase, because actually, Missy Elliott wanted to name the group. She wanted to license the name Mary Jane Girls and name us Mary Jane Girls, because we were multifaceted, multicultural, all that stuff. And we were kind of raw at that point. So that was the idea. We were doing showcases and so on and so forth.
So wait. So you mentioned Missy Elliott. So where does she play in? Does she work with Timbaland and?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So
that's okay.
We went to high school together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah. That whole group came from Virginia.
Yeah.
Right on up to New York, and they were with Jodeci for a while, and then
I remember that.
Started their whole group, crew, basically in New York.
Okay, and so that's good. Okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject, but so when she wanted to name Mary, what was it called?
She wanted to license the name Mary Jane Girls to use as our name, because our name we were called Eyes, EYEZ. That was our name. Okay. But she just had an idea and was like, well, I think it'd be cool if you guys are called, Missy is very edgy, she thinks outside the box, So that's kind of where she came involved. We weren't signed to her, but because she was around and a part of that crew, she saw the group and was like, okay, this is what we should do with them, type of thing. So at that point is where we started to do showcases. And we were recording songs that writers like Static had written, and some other songs that Timbaland had written for other artists that didn't make it onto albums. We were recording those songs. We just kept recording and singing until we can get songs that suit us and fit our group and our sound and all that stuff. Like I said, the other two girls weren't really the lead singer. So when we started to do the live performances, it became a problem. And they wanted to sing more. They wanted to do this. They wanted to do that. And I understand that. But unfortunately, sometimes it's easier to have one or two people to just do it, to get it done, especially when you're in a time crunch. So It didn't quite work out that way. And of course, they didn't really like it. So that's when the group fell apart. And Michelle and I stayed on as writers. And so we were just, we had a little production deal and a publishing deal, and, we had a stipend. So we just kept, working and writing and trying to get placements and so on and so forth.
Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it. But then I was getting ready to say I grew antsy, because suddenly I went from performing a lot to just being in the studio and recording and writing every single day in and day out. And I love the stage. I really love the stage. I love performing. I love interacting. I love, so just being in the studio for, every day. I mean, it was just like, wow, I really needed that balance. And I'm a Libra, of course, add that in. So, I needed a balance. And so I got a little antsy, and I probably got a little antsy a little sooner than I probably should have. But what ended up happening is we started working with, because in New York, you can have shows and you can put on shows and people will just come. The underground world is just like vibrant. So we were performing in different clubs and places, and people were showing up. So we were trying to balance, but it took a hit on our writing a lot, because we were tired staying in clubs all night and so on and so forth, and trying to, be in the studio at the same time. It just didn't work. However, what ended up happening is I was in the studio with Tim, then when they were doing a Joe Boxer Kmart commercial. And I remember the agency, Shy at Day, the ad agency was there doing it. And with them, and the guy was trying to write the lyrics, and he wanted this Missy Elliott type of like scatting, singing, rapping type of thing. And the girl who they had hired, the talent, wasn't there yet. And I was just sitting around, just because I would just show up at the studio early and just hang out to see if I can get on anybody's record. Can I sing backup? Can I do this? Can I do, that's kind of what you had to do with that group. Like, you just had to show up. It's like out of sight, out of mind. So that's what I would do. So I was sitting there, and I remember the guy at the agency was trying to get these lyrics to fit in this groove and whatever. And so then Jimmy Douglas, who was kind of like my mentor, he's the mixer engineer, and he was kind of like their mentor too, really, because he helped with all the deals and not only mixed the songs and mastered the songs and all that stuff, but he was a part of their crew. Jimmy said, Cheri, why don't you go in the booth and put this down so he can see how this sounds? I said, okay. So I go into the booth, I put all the lyrics down and whatever, and I'm doing it. And then next thing you know, he gives me another verse, and he gives me another verse. And next thing you know, this thing is done, right? So guess what happens? The clients get there before the girl comes, and they're happy. They love it. Wow. They're like, wow, this is amazing. Okay, so the girl shows up and it's already done. They want to keep the vocals. They don't want to change anything. And that's how I booked my first national commercial, singing on a Joe Biden. I have to share the video actually on my because it's on YouTube. But so that was the beginning of my jingle career. Because I was friends with, who is still my friend today, Lisa Sanders. She was at Chiat Day, and she introduced me to this jingle house called Crushing Music in New York. And she was like, you should be singing all the time on these commercials, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, all right. I never knew that world at all. So she introduced me, and I started just singing demos for Crushing. Then I got introduced to another jingle house, and I was singing demos all the time suddenly. And then, it's just like going on an audition for an actress or an actor. You can sing a million, but, you'll book one or two here and, but it went from that jingle to I was doing, Miller Lite. I was doing Applebee's, and then I booked a really big one. I did McDonald's when that ba-da-ba-ba-ba came out.
Okay. So you did one of those?
I did a couple of those. I did like 3 of those. So that was amazing. And, that was incredible. And that was just like, oh my God. Wow. You just never knew that world really existed. So that was great. And I started writing jingles too. And, I get the bug with something and I just keep going, So then I was like, well, I'm working with Tim and I'm working with all these upcoming producers. Maybe I can, and I see how they work. They make all these beats and it's just sitting there. Not all of them are being used for all these artists. So I was like, how about I can get these tracks licensed for TV commercials. They're not going to own them. They're just going to license them. And so that I turned that into like a little business too. Cause I was like, well, because sometimes I don't need vocals, on
that's right. That's right.
Music. So then I was like, suddenly, cause I was getting the tracks from them anyway, cause I was one of the writers. I was like, well, I can license some of these tracks that are not being used and we can all make money, So
right.
Anyway, but that was a fun little thing. And so did a lot of that.
And what time frame are we talking? How many years was that, would you say?
So that was, I was doing jingles. I think the Kmart stuff came out maybe 2003, 2004, somewhere around there. So I started working with him in 2000, maybe 2001. 2001, 2002. And I kind of broke off from after I got into the jingles and I started doing that. And I was still writing as an artist, but that was right. 2004, 2005 was when the music industry was starting to collapse. The infrastructure of the music label was starting to, kind of collapse slowly but surely. Technology was taking over with all these different platforms, MySpace and so on. And all that stuff started to happen. But I was still writing and trying to, be an artist and, this and that. Luckily I had, I was writing music. I was still, all the stuff that we had written when we had the publishing deal got licensed for television. So that was amazing. So we had a lot of licensing deals come out of that. We didn't get a whole lot of placements in terms of like artist albums, but he did get licensed for television shows, which was amazing. And then I just got heavily into writing for commercials because that was like so lucrative, you
Mm.
know. Yeah, and so
Okay.
that's kind of like how I started with the because when I got pregnant, I started writing the songs for kids, and I wanted to make it like a hook, just
Right.
something catchy, something commercial, something they're gonna keep in their heads, something that's gonna just they're gonna retain, and that's
Yes.
the format I started with Snooknuk. Um,
Right.
you know,
You know who taught me that for family music was the great Ella Jenkins. Are you familiar with Ella Jenkins?
I love, absolutely.
Well, my first year when I got into family music, she was the guest at. We used to have conferences before pandemic. We would all the children's artists get together. It was called Kindy Fest at that time, and it was in Brooklyn. She was the guest there, and she performed for all of us artists, all children's music artists.
Wow.
And one thing she kept saying was repetition is important.
Mhm.
If you're doing a show and the children and you play a song and the children want you to play that song again,
Yep.
play that song again.
Mhm.
It's their show, not yours.
Right.
And so I really appreciate that. And you talked about having a baby. So how many children do you have, and how old are they?
So I have two girls that I physically had.
Yeah.
Sheba is 14, and then Zuri just turned 11.
Uh-huh.
And I have my son who my husband's had from previous relationship, but I raised him since he was 5.
Okay.
So he's
Wow.
just
And
21.
did you
Yeah,
say your first one was a Sheba?
her name is Sheba.
Oh, Sheba. Okay, okay.
Yep, it's
Because
Sheba.
I was thinking about another children's music artist who plays who comes to us through calypso music, Sheba. I don't know if you've heard of him.
No, I
You're
haven't.
gonna love it. Phenomenal. I mean, his story is a lot like yours. He has his music playing on airplanes.
Oh wow,
I mean, he's he started off just going to New York, huh?
Sheba.
Sheba, yes. Just look him up. Just type Sheba children's music. He's
Wow.
everywhere. And but that's what we do here. And we want to connect all of our artists together because we never know where it's gonna go. And and speaking of such, you had a guest with you at Kukuza Fest that was playing was it the guitar? What was it? That wasn't a ukulele, that was a guitar, right?
It was an acoustic. Yeah, so she
Acoustic.
actually played the acoustic, and then she played the piano too for Ain't I a
Yes.
Woman. She did
Yes,
both.
yes. What's her name?
Um, Jessica Casanelli. So
Okay.
Jessica has been working with me at so I don't know if a lot of people know, but I used to have a physical space called Snooknuk Cafe. It was a
Mhm.
performing arts cafe for kids in
Yes.
Los Angeles, and I had it for about 5.5 years until the pandemic hit,
Mhm.
and of course I had to kind of close it down, and but prior to that, I was running music circles, drum circles, all types of
Mhm.
musical programs for kids. So I would not only teach them and entertain at different events, I would hire other musicians around Los Angeles to come and play and sing and,
Mhm.
learn songs. And we would not only do just Snook music, we would just do, classic songs and
Yes.
so on and so forth. And it was just
Mhm.
really fun. So Jessica had been working with me almost 2 years, I would say. Um, almost it may be going on 3 years, but she's been with me for a while.
Mhm.
And so now, even now, when I have live performances or whatever, I'll just be like, Jessica, come. She's always so happy, and I mean, that's
She has a
wonderful
good
music.
spirit. Yeah, she has
Yeah,
a real good spirit. And tell her, she's performing with you, so that makes her she classifies for our category. So come and join the party.
that's true.
But
Actually, I
yeah,
will share that.
yeah, but I love your sound and I love your energy. And in terms of even your CD, what was the name of your last CD in 2020?
It was Once Upon a Day, a lot more funny.
Yeah, yeah. What's okay?
I
And
did Once Upon a Day because the first one was Once Upon a Day, a little less tears, and
mhm.
I did the Once Upon a Day because I thought, well, I'll just keep on with this series because it's a day in a life with your kid, always,
Yes,
right?
yes, that's
You
right.
know, from the moment they're babies
Mhm.
to they're gone off to college.
Yes,
It's a day in a life with if you once you're a parent, it's a day in a life with your
that's
kids.
right. That's right.
So once upon a day, a little this. Once
Mhm.
upon a day, that. So I just thought
That's
I'll
right.
just keep going in that vein.
And let me do this before we go any further for those that are listening on the podcast. You're listening to We Nation Radio Podcast. I am Uncle Devin, the children's drumcussionist, and my wonderful guest is the one and only Snooknuk or Cheri Moon. And we're just having a wonderful conversation about her career. And if you had to compare your pre children's career or family music career to the music career now in family music, how would you compare it, and what's the difference?
Hmm. Well, there's a huge difference.
Hmm.
I mean, being in the music industry and just being, surrounding yourself with pop artists and just doing pop music and, I was doing pop music and dance music and stuff like that, which is really fun. And I had a good time. And even still now, I still enjoy singing that. I still enjoy performing that. But there's just something reinvigorating when it comes to singing children's music and performing for kids because they are so receptive. They're like
Yeah.
sponges. They soak everything up and they just, I mean, if they don't like something, they're going to tell you. If they love it, they're going to tell you. Like you are just going to get pure honesty from,
Yeah,
that group of people,
that's right.
So I love that. And, with my music, it's with the Snooknuk music, it warms my heart when parents come to me and they say, "Oh man, we listen to your song in the car all the time, and we listen to this, and oh, we were having a problem, and you know what? We were singing this song, and now she's singing it, and like, we're not having that problem anymore." It's helping people get through these challenging times with their kids and their toddlers. And that for me is a win-win because that's what I set out to do. These
Yes.
songs
Oh,
were,
really? Okay.
yeah, I mean, these songs were written to target teaching kids and targeting those challenging things for them to learn.
Mhm.
So if that's what it's doing, I'm over the moon.
Well, I know, it is a certain energy that you get from doing family music. I know the one thing that's obvious, and I've done some adult music, played with a couple of groups here and there, but the biggest thing is I'm not out late at night, and I guess I've always been an old soul. Even when I was in my early 20s, I hated being out late in the club. I mean, what I'm saying. I mean, I love to
Yeah.
perform, but
Yeah.
it's just not me. But
Yeah.
nowadays, I tell people I'm generally done by 3 in the afternoon, and the rest of the day is mine.
It's a huge difference. Well, try doing not only just pop music when I was doing because right before I started releasing the Snooknut stuff, I was doing a lot of dance music, which is
Mhm.
club music. And
Ooh,
talk
yeah,
about performing that.
yeah,
Okay, like, yeah, it was
yeah.
like, "Oh, you're going on at 9," then it was like 10, and then suddenly it's midnight, and then you're
Mhm.
on at 1 or 2 in the morning.
Yes.
Oh my
And, and
god.
and you got to be ready. I mean, once you get on that stage, now all of a sudden you got to find the energy. You got to find yeah, and be on it. Yeah.
It
Well,
was great.
what can we expect? What's next for Snooknuk coming up in family music? What can we look forward to?
So, I am working on a new album right now, which I'm very excited about. So, I'm working on new material, and I mean, my long-lasting, passion as well is to create more visuals as well.
Hmm.
I love animation, so I've been working on, creating that. I've written actually storylines and synopsis for a show.
Hmm.
And so I'm really just focused on that and trying to get an animated series off the ground for Snooknuk as well, which I'm super excited about. So a lot of that type of stuff is really what I'm looking to do and to just collaborate with more artists. And now that I found this new community of family artists, I mean, I'm ready to just do more and more and more. It really just fuels me. It actually feeds
Right.
my soul so much. So
Well, it's an honor. I know my wife and I, when we first got into the field, and just in 9 years, it's changed so much. But
mm,
when I first came in, it wasn't that many artists of color,
yeah.
and it was hard to really. I mean, people were still helpful, but I never got a royalty check from many of the radio stations. I won't mention their names. And it could be a number of different things. It could be taste. People may not even like the music that I play, which is fine.
Mhm.
But I'm certain that my music wasn't any worse than what they were playing on the radio, what I was listening to. I was
Sure.
like, "Oh
Yeah.
my goodness." But I've always been, and we've been the type that, if there's a problem, we don't look for anyone else to solve it.
Mm,
There's a problem, there's a solution, there's an action. That's Uncle
yep.
Devin's PSAs. And so that's what we did. We started, knew nothing about radio, but we started We Nation Radio. And part of it was also to bring artists of color together so that
Yeah.
we can support one another. And so my goal is maybe in 2-3 years, if not sooner than that, that family music will be a staple in
Mhm.
our communities. It won't be something, I don't know if you feel it or have to deal with having to explain what does it really mean,
Yeah,
because
I do.
I do family music. Well, what does that?
Yeah, it's like, what is
I
that?
do too.
What do you,
Yeah,
oh, yeah. And then when they realize what it is, it's kind of like you don't get the same respect as every, if I was going to say, oh, I write, country
mhm.
music or pop music, it's kind of like,
Yep.
oh, okay,
Oh, yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Because we used to putting the children at the little children table, and they're supposed to be seen, not heard, and all.
yeah.
And we have to change that. We are going to change that dynamic, and so
Done an
for
amazing
us,
job
that's
thus far, that's for sure. I'm really,
yeah.
Lolita are really killing it right now.
Well, thank you, and so are you. And I'm so glad that we're able to let people know who you are, what you do, and I've been posting up your information. If you want to see, matter of fact, we're going to connect one of your performances to Kukuza Fest to this particular podcast. And but if you want to watch the entire podcast, 2 hours, go
Yeah.
to the We Nation Radio YouTube page,
Mhm.
and then click on Kukuza Fest 2. Well, it should say Kukuza Fest, a salute to Black women. And then you can also go back and look at last year's where we had 4 hours, 2 days full
Yeah.
of wonderful artists. And we got more coming. Not sure if it's going to be another one this year or next, but either way, we're going to continue to do what we're doing here. And I want to thank you for being, for being with us on at Kukuza Fest, and for even having the love to want to sing to children, because to me, when we sing to the least of these, that to me is when we're really reaching our zenith as people. So thank you very much. Keep singing, and perhaps one day, I got a couple of ideas. I may reach out to you and say, hey, listen, give me your thoughts. Let's see how we can work this out.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm ready.
All
Thank
right.
you,
Well,
Devin, for
thank you.
having me on.
Okay. Well, thank you again, and to all the audience that's checking us out, thank you for being here. Stay tuned for more wonderful interviews, not only just from here, but from the Family Music Forward, the group that actually helped to power and create Kukuza Fest. You can find out more about Family Music Forward by going to familymusicforward.org and see how we're being change makers in family music. So until we meet again next time, just remember, I'm Uncle Devin, and life is a drum. So beat it.